Responses? The member for Ottawa Vanier. Orléans. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And it's an honor to rise today in the legislature during Women Abuse Prevention Month. I know everyone here wishes that such a month was still not necessary in 2020. Too many women in our society continue to face the unbelievable, unconscionable, and horrific abuse from those around them. This abuse, psychological, emotional, and physical, sometimes comes from the hands of strangers, but too often is inflicted by friends, partners, employers, and those in positions of authority around them. And it's this abuse of power and authority that I'd like to focus on today, Mr. Speaker. Recently, Mr. Speaker, the Integrity Commissioner at the City of Ottawa finished a years-long investigation into shocking and horrific abuse and harassment of women in the workplace by City Councillor Rick Shirelli. The revelations from this years-long inquiry are both shocking and horrific. The City Councillor repeatedly abused his authority, demeaned and harassed the women that worked for him in ways that are difficult to read about. His actions are so beyond the pale that the City has imposed the most severe penalties afforded to them under legislation, the suspension of pay. And while the City has done its best to support the courageous women who have come forward with their stories and take action. But anyone who has read the report, Mr. Speaker, will know that in any other workplace, the penalties would be much more severe. Last year, as reports were first starting to be made public, I joined my colleagues on City Council standing at my place around the table in protest to Mr. Shirelli's abuse of power and privilege. And while I'm proud that my former colleagues have taken the most severe steps available to them, and that they will be donating their forfeited pay to nonprofit groups and organizations that deal with violence against women, these steps on their own are not enough. Mr. Speaker, the women who face this harassment and emotional trauma have taken the most difficult and courageous step. They've come forward and reported their abuse. They've shared their stories so that a light can be shone on this dark corner, and that actions can be taken to stop it from happening again. And now it is time for the government to act just as courageously. In any other workplace, a person who harassed and abused employees and co-workers in this way would lose their job. They would lose their title. They would lose their position of authority. And Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, these actions are not limited to one city councillor in Ottawa. We've seen similar situations in Brampton, and undoubtedly, Mr. Speaker, there have been situations across Ontario. It is time for the government to set an example and take action to let it be known that elected officials won't be treated any differently than any other employee in any other workplace. There must be a system put in place to stop elected officials from abusing the trust and authority placed in them, and if necessary, remove them from office for violating this trust. I stand in solidarity with the brave women from Ottawa and all those who have faced harassment, abuse, and trauma from those around them. Mr. Speaker, there will always be reasons not to do something. Taking action often requires difficult conversations and contemplating the tough what-if questions. But the women who have suffered this abuse deserve the respect of having those conversations, asking the what-ifs, and finding a solution. I hope that the government will step up for them, because they deserve nothing short of the province's full support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.